is one that has been long awaited. The last time I filmed a monthly reading wrap-up was September. I was in a really big reading slump for a lot of October. It was really bad, and I was just going through a lot with school and with work and was so busy, so I also just didn't really have the time to read. I made a community post about this and mentioned how I was going to put October and November together in one monthly reading wrap-up video, just because in October I only read one book, and that's not enough books to make a whole video about. So we are here today combining October, and November into one monthly reading wrap-up video. October was rough, as I said, so we're just gonna get straight into it. The one book that I read in October during my book slump was a romance book. A romance book of a series of interconnected standalones. I have not read the prior 2 books that this series is in. And honestly, it wasn't that bad. I didn't really feel confused or anything, but the book I read in October was Daydream by Hannah Grace. I didn't really have any interest in reading Icebreaker or Wildfire, but this one did stick out to me because of like the female main character. I was like, okay girl. She's a Taylor Swift fan. She likes to read. She runs a book club. Just felt like a female main character really up my alley. And unfortunately, I did not like this. I only gave it 2 stars. It just didn't go very well for me. I don't know if it's because I was in a slump and was just trying my best to get through this book, but it took me all month long to read, and at first I really liked it. I thought it was super cute. I thought the characters were like really cute as well, and I liked their budding romance. But then we just hit a point in the book where I was like, what are we doing? Why does this book go on for 200 pages more? It did not need to be that long. Respectfully. And those 200 pages were just so slow, and I felt like truly provided nothing, if that makes sense. And I thought maybe if this book went well, I would read Icebreaker and Wildfire, but unfortunately, I don't see that happening. I didn't have any interest in them before, and after reading this, I don't really have any interest in them now. So it is unfortunate because I do know that the Maple Hills series is like highly loved, but it's okay. It's okay. It wasn't for me. If you like this book, good for you. I hope you enjoyed it. But I don't really see any more Hannah Grace in the cards for me. The song that I did pick for Daydream by Hannah Grace was Daydreamin' by Ariana Grande. It's right there in the title. I couldn't help myself. But yeah. So that is the only book I read in October, and it didn't go super great for me, which is very unfortunate. But we then move into November. And that is a much better reading month for me than October was. I read four. I read 4 books this month. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. and I think it went pretty good. 2 of the books from this month are like rereads, but I'm just a girl, okay? The first book we have is Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. I just knew that in order to get out of my book slump, I needed to read something that I knew I was going to love. And I don't really know if I've talked about it before, but I do have like all my Twilight sweaters and stuff that you guys have seen me wear in my videos, but the Twilight saga is so important to my character and my lore. Like, I saw every movie premiere in theaters with my mom. I read Twilight for the first time back in the 6th grade. Like, it's a book that holds a nostalgia and sentimental value, and it's gonna hit every time for me. And I know that might be a little controversial, because I know some people really do not like Twilight, but that's not the case for me. I love it. So, I read Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. And of course, I had to give this book 5 stars. The movie, the book, the characters, the plot, like, it's just gonna hit every time. It's gonna do it for me every time. Bella, Edward, Alice, Jasper, Forks, Washington. It's just my vibe. Okay, the baseball scene. Don't get me started on that. But this did in fact get me out of my book slump. So it did what it needed to do. And the song that I picked for this book was Decode by Paramore. It's my favorite song from the Twilight movie. It just makes sense. Simple as that. And then carrying on that vibe, I did in fact read New Moon shortly after. I think I maybe took like a day pause in between. And again, this was another 5-star read for me. But this one is like an actual 5 stars. Like, New Moon is my favorite movie and my favorite book. So as a kid, was Team Jacob. Now, as an adult, I don't know what team I am. I don't think I am on a team. But I think that's why New Moon is like my favorite, because childhood me from the start loved Jacob. And New Moon is a very heavily Jacob-based movie and book. So this one just makes me so giddy. I giggle, I kick my feet watching Jacob and Bella like having more of a friendship and stuff. And I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just nobody understands me and my love for New Moon. And again, just because these books were turned into movies and already have soundtracks, picking a song for them is pretty easy. I just picked from the soundtrack. And so I picked Possibility by Likey Lee. There's a possibility. So, moving on into my third book for November, I finally continued with the Throne of Glass series, and I finished reading Queen of Shadows. So, let me get into this real quick. I started reading Queen of Shadows at the start of October, and then I hit a reading slump, so I just kind of sat there waiting for me to get back to it. After I got out of my book slump with Twilight and the Moon, I did decide to pick this back up. So far, if you know the Throne of Glass series, Heir of Fire is my favorite book so far. After Heir of Fire, I did read Assassin's Blade next. I do slightly regret that. I wish I would have read it first. But my sister, who recommended that I read Sarah J. Maas in the first place, I wanted to read it in the same order she read it in. So I read Assassin's Blade after Heir of Fire. I read Assassin's Blade in September. And I thought that book was so slow and a little boring, and the emotional factor of that book that apparently makes everybody sad, it wasn't sad for me. If you know, you know, but reading it in that order, the sad thing that happens is you're already spoiled for it within the first 3 books. So Assassin's Blade was hard for me to get through. It was just really slow paced, and not as fun or interesting as the first 3 books of Throne of Glass, because it's a prequel. It's setting up Selena's life and stuff before the events of Throne of Glass. So just being teleported from Heir of Fire, where there's a bunch of stuff happening and it's really high stakes and intense and super exciting, to Assassin's Blade, where I really felt like not much was happening, and I was just like, okay, is this over yet? Was really rough. And then jumping into Queen of Shadows, the first 50% of this book is nothing but plotting, scheming, angst. It's just a lot of setup for the last half of the book. So Heir of Fire, super great, super intense, my favorite book so far. Assassin's Blade, slow paced, was really just not it for me. Into Queen of Shadows, where I was like, okay, now we're gonna get back to the exciting stuff. And then the first 300 pages of that was super slow and was just all set up. I was also struggling to make it through this. So in October, I was like, we're done with you for right now. I'll get back to you later. And so November was the month for that. I read from the 30% mark or so onto the end. Once you hit the 50% mark, things finally start to pick up. It gets pretty intense, and the classic Sarah J. Maas move stuff is going crazy, and it was just finally what I wanted from Throne of Glass again. So I actually gave this a 4-star. I gave this a 4-star. As of right now, Throne of Glass has a 4.25. Crown of Midnight has a 4.5. Heir of Fire has a 4.75, but I did round that up to 5 stars on Goodreads. Assassin's Blade is a 3.75, and Queen of Shadows is a 4. So we were increasing, then we had a sharp divot, and now we're increasing again. So hopefully it's strictly up from here. I of course can't really tell you what happens in this book because I'm trying to be spoiler free, and if you haven't read it or you're not at that point in Throne of Glass, then I don't want to spoil it. But I love Manon, I love Dorian, and I love Rowan, and it's made me invested again. The last 50% of this has made me invested again in this series and in these characters. So I'm super excited to start the tandem read of Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn super soon. I'm really looking forward to that, because I'm starting to love this world again. So give it 4 stars, and the song that I picked for this book was Love I'm Given by Ellie Goulding. Ellie Goulding. jump back to the Kindle. And so after reading Twilight, New Moon, and Queen of Shadows, I wanted to just read a standalone. I didn't really want to read something that was part of a series. So I browsed my Kindle library and I found Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Levin. I have had this book on my Kindle like for so long, and I've finally read it. A lot of people love this book and a lot of people dislike this book, and unfortunately I'm kind of in the middle. I was talking to one of my friends who loves this book, and she was like, you know, it's definitely the kind of book where you either love it or you hate it. But I think I'm kind of in between. I did give this book 3 stars, which is like lower than I thought it was going to be. I definitely thought this book was going to be a 4 or 5 stars, just because of the way everybody has like talked about it. But unfortunately, it fell flat for me. I thought a lot of the characters in this book were insufferable. I don't mind the miscommunication trope if it happens like once or twice in the book. But this book was just like miscommunication from the first page to the last page. And I struggled with that like really hard. And I also struggled with like being able to truly like connect to any of the characters in a deep emotional way, unfortunately. And I don't know if that has to do with like the writing style or the way the story was told, by jumping from like past to present and then little flickers of memories to present to like this to that to this throughout the chapters, or what. But if you really love the miscommunication trope and a character-driven story, this is for you. If you like video games and stuff, I like video games, that's why I thought I was gonna like this. But if you like video games on top of a character-driven story, you might like this. It might be for you, but unfortunately, it wasn't for me. So I gave it 3 stars, middle of the road, pretty okay. And literally in my Goodreads review, I write, yeah, I wanted this to be more than it was. Unfortunately, a lot of the characters were insufferable. Yeah, I couldn't put the book down and wanted to know what was going to happen next. And that's true. I devoured this in like 2-3 days, but it wasn't hitting. Do you know what I mean? Okay. Hopefully that made sense. But the song I picked for Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow was oh my goodness, it was If You Call by Angie McMahon. And that right there was the 5 books that I read in October and November. Thank you guys so much for being here and watching this video. Comment down in the description below what you read in November, what your favorite book from the month was. I'm excited to chat with you guys down below. And I look forward to seeing you all in my next video. I have some fun ones coming up that I'm really excited about. So, but if you've made it this far in the video, comment a cow emoji, like my little cowboy sticker. And I'll see you all later.